Congressman Ron Paul is with us now. Congressman, are you now or have you ever been a member of the Libertarian Party?
Boy, that's a tricky question. Am I in trouble? If I answer honestly, could I be in trouble? That's the question.
Well, I wanted to know if you answer yes to that and you happen to have a Ron Paul bumper sticker on your car, you're definitely a militia member.
Uh-oh. Well, since this is a public record, I have to tell you the truth. Yes, I have been a member.
Do you have a Ron Paul bumper sticker on your car?
Yes, I do. So
oh, boy.
Is that too?
You just stay on the phone. We're tracing the call right now. You just stay on the phone.
Yeah, but you may be traced as well for bringing up the subject.
I know. Oh, I know they're tracing my calls.
Be careful, too.
Listen, Congressman, there was this story that came out last week about Missouri, where they did this study on who's a militia member. And there were some pretty remarkable things in there. For instance, if you have a Ron Paul bumper sticker on your car, that's a sign. If you talk about the Constitution, if you're against the United Nations, if you've ever passed along cartoons against the FBI, ATF, or IRS, that's another sign. I mean, this is insane.
They're really taking on something. I don't know how they can handle this. Hopefully this will awaken the American people, because I think I saw a poll the other day where 25% of the American people now think the UN is not a good idea and that we should be out of it. What are they going to do? Round us all up or what? What's going to happen?
I will tell you this, the latest on the United Nations is that today they said that the G20 should be disbanded and they should have a security council for the economies, and that 1% of everyone's stimulus package needs to go to the UN. That's crazy.
That's you're not supposed to waste a crisis, as Rahm Emanuel says. So this crisis is going to be used to the people who do believe in world government. I don't think it's a conspiracy. I think they're pretty honest. I think they're open about it, and I think they intellectually believe in it every bit as much as we believe in national sovereignty and personal liberty. They think you should have world government. So this crisis now is not only a danger to us for the economic reasons, but it's a danger to our liberties and the whole concept of what the United States stands for.
Congressman, what do you think? Well, first of all, let's go right to the Geithner bailout now of the banks of buying the toxic assets for $1 trillion. This is a plan that was the original TARP plan that they then came out and said would not work. It would have been a disaster. And now they're saying they have to do it. And it's going to be the savior. It's $1 trillion.
Yeah, and it's just redundancy. Like you said, that was the original plan. They tried and tried. But the Fed, unfortunately, already has the authority to do it. And they announced last week that they were going to buy up these toxic assets. So how many times can they buy these? And what they're saying...
Hold it just a second. I'm sorry to interrupt. I swear to you, this is according to the Treasury, they have just announced that toxic assets are no longer toxic assets. They are now to be called legacy assets.
Lying through their teeth.
So, I just wanted to correct we got to get the right phrases here. So you were talking about the toxic legacy assets.
What it is they're worthless. They claim that there's no market for them. Well, there is no market because they're worthless. They're finding victims, and we're the victims. The taxpayers are the victims. They can't sell them because they have no value, and they should allow them to be eliminated. They have to be liquidated. But this whole idea that they have to be bought up is preposterous. That's why they wouldn't. This thing could have all practically been over if they just would have allowed all these companies to go into bankruptcy. The bankruptcy court would have handled this. We wouldn't have had to appropriate any money. We wouldn't have had that mess with regulating salaries. That whole thing could have been stopped just by following the law, which should have been bankruptcy court.
Okay, so now we have $1 trillion that they're proposing. The Fed and the Treasury are coming out and saying it's a $2 trillion problem, but we'll take $1 trillion of it. However, they were the same people that were telling us just 6 months ago that this is probably a $500 billion problem, and they were going to overwhelm it with $700 billion in bailout money. Now the experts are saying, no, the Treasury's wrong. This is probably a $4 trillion problem. Is there a point, Congressman, where you see your fellow congressmen saying, okay, enough is enough?
No, they're like an addict. They're addicted. They don't know what else to do. They don't understand free market economics. They're in deep now, so they're not going to back off. And I've been saying this for a little while, and that is because we're locked into this mentality. I think they're going to destroy the dollar before it's going to stop with the destruction of the dollar. We won't be able to afford it. There's no reason in the world to trust the value of the dollar long term, and yet right now the world is still gravitating to the dollar. People are buying Treasury bill. Interest rates are very low, but that's going to end. Otherwise, this would be a free gift to us, and we could bail ourselves out forever, and we wouldn't have to work, and all we have to do is print money and buy stuff from overseas. So it has to end. There's no way in the world that you can create these trillions of dollars. Already, the Fed has committed to more than $5 trillion of either direct loans or guarantees. So the commitment is overwhelming. All the pressure is on the dollar, and soon we saw a little bit of what can happen last Wednesday when the Fed announced their $1 trillion thing. You know, the dollar within 24 hours went down 4.5%. So if it can do that in 1 hour, what could happen when people panic out of the dollar and the Chinese dump their dollars? Very, very dangerous situation.
Congressman Ron Paul, last week, I think it was on Wednesday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we started to monetize our own debt. Every economic expert that I have talked to that I believe has credibility because they weren't saying, oh, there's no problem. They haven't changed their tune. All the economic experts that were talking to me now that actually have a record of being right said this is endgame here. This is the beginning of the end, where you buy the debt from yourself for another $1 trillion. It's the death spiral. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Absolutely. And although they have monetized debt and they bought them in the market, they've never done this before, although they've had the authority to do it. They buy it directly from the Treasury. So Congress, in a way, they're not going to put their foot down because that bails them out. Congress can appropriate endlessly, and the people in charge right now happen to believe that's a proper way of solving these problems. So
where is this $1 trillion? They printed $1 trillion yesterday or last week. Where is this $1 trillion coming from with Timothy Geithner?
Well, they're going to start off with getting, I think, $100 billion from the TARP funds. And even though last week they talked about that $1 trillion, that hasn't transpired yet. That is just in the in the pipeline, but it will come about. But they've been doing this all along. So if they appropriate money, it ends up the Fed has to monetize it eventually anyway. And then if the Fed buys the debt directly and buys these mortgage debts directly, there's really no real reason for the Treasury to be doing this because the Fed can do it. They could have done it all along. They're either awfully confused or they're trying to hide something, which maybe it's both.
Congressman, the concept came to me today as I was talking about Barack Obama and his I think it's $634 billion, in a down payment for health care that they're just pulling off to the side. First question, is there an escrow account that we should be watching where they're pulling this $634 billion off to the side? Where is that lock box, as Al Gore used to talk about?
Well, that's not there. It's all this promise that you can deficit finance and print the money.
Okay.
And it's endless. It never stops. It's absolutely bizarre. It's just a wonder that the markets are doing as well as they're doing. The markets are doing lousy. The dollar is doing better than it deserves, but that, of course, is going to quit.
The other question that I have is, at what point, I mean, I don't hear anyone talk about what it looks like. I mean, what we have basically is a giant balloon payment. At some point, we're going to have to pay for all of this stuff. and I don't hear anybody talking about it. At what point is it in our best interest to let the dollar collapse? Because our children will be paying.